Okay, the next demo, which I think follows very well from the hair clip demo, is shape memory alloys. We have this nitinol shape memory alloy. I've got probably about another 50 meters of this stuff, and we use that to make, I don't know where it went to make these little shape memory alloy wires, let's say WSU. We want every student that sees our work to get one of these. They cost seriously like 7-8 cents a piece to make. They're a bit of a hassle because the way we make them is we have this die and we use this tool to clamp one end of the wire, and then we wrap it around a bunch of times to make the WSU logo, clamp it off here, put this top on, and then we have to anneal it. I can't remember the exact temperature, but we can write that down somewhere. So this shape memory alloy, it comes from Next Metal, NEXMETAL. The programming is you wrap it around the die, you anneal it at 475 degrees Celsius for 45 minutes, you take it out of the furnace and you immediately quench while it's in the die, and that locks in the twin martensite structure. Anyway, that's how you make it. I'm hoping that someone in Materials Advantage can find the time to wrap these. We really do need to get a sizable collection of them so that we can pass them out. Please try to find time. Thank you. Having said that, we don't want all the wire wrapped at once. And the reason is that as these wires sit, they do undergo a loss of memory, particularly if they're in a bag and they get all bent around. So, and it's also because they're thin. I got 0.5 millimeter wire. Going to 1 millimeter wire would have saved on that some, but it would also have doubled the price. So we want enough wires always on hand that when we give demos or we visit high schools, we can give out wires, but we don't necessarily want to wrap the entire ream at this point. But we definitely want people to take these home, and that's because this is great advertising for between 7 and 10 cents. Because you give this to a kid, they're going to take it home, they're going to show their parents, they're going to show their grandparents, they're going to show their friends, their siblings, their cousins. If you give it to students when they visit campus, they're going to take it home to their high school. And it says WSU, and it cost us at the most 10 cents. So to do this demo, and by the way, in the kit, I put tools. The tools were paid for by recruiting. Do not take the tools out of the kit, because it's a pain in the butt to find these things if you don't know where they are. The tools stay in the kit. One more time. The tools stay in the kit. Okay, to do this demo, you just need the wire and steaming hot water. It needs to be 80 degrees Celsius, so you may or may not be able to use hot coffee. And the problem is, if you make this early in your presentation, sometimes it cools off too much. You can also use a propane torch. Be careful with this, because if you get it too hot, you can wreck the shape memory effect. Also, be careful in the demo, because you see we've got a little loop here. This little loop, if you pull it and you make a little kink, you can mechanically lock in a shape, and you don't want that either. So you want to be careful to unwrap it in a way that does not potentially damage the shape memory effect. And also, you'll want pliers for this. Okay. Here it goes. So Washington State University, we train students, and you know that. But I bet you didn't know that we also train wires. I know, it sounds silly, but this wire I trained myself, and in fact I trained it to say WSU. WSU. So it's one of our alumni. And this wire, it's been trained and it's ready to go out in the world, like all of our alumni, with our logo. You know, I picked up some Cougar gear at the store. And as our wires go out in the world, just as our students go out, they're going to experience some stresses. They get a job, and maybe they get a house. Maybe they get married. Projecting. But they experience stress. And the important thing for our alumni and our wires is to think back to their time at WSU and to remember studying and, you know, going out at night to get a cup of coffee or a cup of tea to regather their thoughts. And doing that, they can restore who they are and remember that they come from WSU. So how does this work? Well, this is called a shape memory alloy. And we talked about structure. Well, this has a very special structure. It's called martensite. And when you look at it under a microscope, it looks like a folded accordion. It's called a twinned martensite. And you can think of it kind of like a flexi drinking straw. And when I take this and I unwind it or move it around, it's like taking that drinking straw and unbending it. So I can make it any shape I want. And this material has a very neat property, is that when I put it in hot water or I hold it to a lighter or something, it changes back to a high temperature structure that we call austenite. And then when it cools down again, it goes back into that twinned martensite. So I can take and I can do this over and over and over again. And that's so cool. I mean, this has found application. It's used for actuators. It's used actually in biomedical. So stents in people's arteries, that's what this is made out of. But just imagine what else we could do with it. What if you made a car fender out of this, right? Your car, you get in a little fender bender, you take the car, you put it through the car wash, it pops back out. Now, we have the wires, but we don't have the fender bender recovery through the car wash yet. Why is that? Because we can't make this in a fashion that you can afford for a vehicle. And that's what materials engineers do. Materials engineers take, really simple ideas that can be used for things like, artificial muscles, sensors, heart stents, and they figure out how to make them for larger scale applications in an affordable fashion. So someday a materials engineer is going to figure out how to make these in a large scale, affordable fashion, and you're going to have cars made out of shape memory alloy.